this title. And he's got to go to Middlesbrough and get something. And I'll tell you, honestly, I will love it if we beat them.
Yes, everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Warm Down. We're not doing them in studio anymore because, well, you know why. Joining me today, I have got Danny Higginbotham. Is this your hat-trick now, Danny?
I think it might be, so I'm expecting, what is it, a ball? Something like that?
We'll
sign something on my way.
We'll get a ball hand sanitized and thrown into the post for you. It is sponsored by the good folks at The Athletic. I'm going to go into an article a little bit later on because I want Danny's opinion on it. But if you want to get 50% off your membership and a month's free subscription, or they might do a year now, I don't know. A month's free subscription, the link is in the description below. So go check those out. But Danny, how have you been?
I've been all right. Obviously, it's very strange times, isn't it? Football gets put into perspective a little bit. I think everybody's life is thrown into a bit of chaos, and I think each day we're just listening to see what the next step is. But it's unprecedented times, and there's a lot of worry in the world. And the one thing I would say is that just listen to what everyone's got to say, because the amount of people, in particular the young people, and and you find it with your own children. It's like, well, I'm going to be all right, But it's not that. It's who they can pass it on to and who they can affect. And I think we just have to do as we're told for as long as it is and deal with that, because, like I say, it's unprecedented and it's a worrying time for a lot of people.
It's the not knowing when this ends problem, innit? If I said to you, right, Danny, football's back 1st of June, we're all back working 1st of June, the matches are going to be back, everyone's going to go back to the regular working life, all that sort of stuff comes back in then, you'd be like, okay, I'm going to hunker down for 6-8 weeks, whatever it is, and then I can crack on from them. But the fact that we just have no idea what's going on, that's the killer, innit? Because you're like, okay, how long do I actually have to put my life on pause for? How long do I need to, you see people going nuts in the supermarkets and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not good.
No, it's not. And the thing is, we're creatures of habits, and when we're thrown out of what we're used to doing, it affects a lot of problems. And I think, one of the big things that's been going on in particular in this country for a while now is, people, when they're talking about mental health, and, this is something that can have a real effect on that, because I think there's a lot of anxiety. I think there's a lot of worry. And, my own personal opinion is that, if you have friends, if you have family that you feel can be like that, just always be there for them. Even if it's just to try and make them feel a little bit better, go and get a bit of shopping from them. I've been doing that for my parents because, they're at a vulnerable age now. So I've just said to him, I don't want you going out of the house. My dad looks at me a little bit like I'm a snotty-nosed kid saying, what are you telling me to do? And I've just said, you want to go to the shops, you want anything doing, just tell me. I'll go and do, because it's just not worth the risk. And still, which completely baffles me, I still don't understand how such a large amount of society don't understand how serious this is and how dangerous this is. We're seeing people being told that certain things are shut, businesses are shutting down, and then you see pictures of the underground in London. It seems it's incredible. The social distancing, people couldn't be closer together. And you've got all the pubs and what have you that are remaining open at the moment, and there are a few people carrying on regardless because they want to carry on as things are. But you can't do that now. It's not all about the individual. We have to do this collectively, because 80% of us can do what we're told, but if 20% don't, then it's not going to work. We're not going to get our desired outcome at the end of it if people are still out and about spreading it, and actually spreading it without knowing they've actually got it.
Yeah, and that's one of the major issues with this particular virus, isn't it? Is that you're infectious well before you're ill, whereas most normal flus, you get ill and you're infectious at the same time, and you're not going out because you're ill. So you self-contain anyway, don't you?
Yeah, 100%. And my daughter, it's been a difficult week for her because she's in her last year of school, so she was preparing for GCSEs and what have you. And today is her last day at school. So they finished, and I'm saying to make sure you get home afterwards. And it's the conversation, well, I just want to go and see my friends for a bit, and they just don't understand. You're then saying to them, no, the reason your school's shut isn't because so you can have a holiday and relax and go and spend time with your friends. It's so you can do the right thing. And I think the more people that understand that, the more people that need to understand that, is that this is not about an individual. You or me could catch it and could be completely unaware of it, might not affect us. But you can come into contact with older people people that have, health problems. And that's when the real problems occur. And I think too many at the moment are thinking, well, I'm going to be okay, so it doesn't matter whether I catch it or not. When the whole method behind this is the reason for you not to catch it is not so you don't get it, it's so that you don't pass it on to somebody that's more vulnerable. And I just hope sooner rather than later we fall into line with everybody else as a country and everybody starts taking this seriously, because I still think there's a certain amount of people that are being really blasé about it, and that needs to stop ASAP.
I saw a video with a young lady on Twitter. I think she was in her 30s, and she had a ventilator and a cannula in and stuff like that, and she was saying, I'm not a vulnerable person, and I am going to survive this, and I'm over the worst of this, but once the hospitals fill up with beds, that's when this gets dangerous, when too many people have got it at the same time. She's like, I needed this to breathe, pointing at the nose. I needed this in to breathe. If I didn't get this in, I might have been in real trouble. And that's when it starts to get bad, is when you've got the 30 and 40-year-olds who should be able to ride this out, get a particular bad dose of it, and that's when they struggle. And that's when you start having the problems that you've sort of seen in Italy. We've been taking cameras home every night. We're still coming into the office. There's only a few of us in here. We're taking a camera home every night on the off chance that they go, you can't come in now. So we can still continue to work from home. But yeah, like, I feel like it's coming. I feel like it's probably a week away at most.
Yeah, I think at most, the biggest thing is at the moment now is that you can't put into words the people at the NHS. You just can't. It just sends shivers down my spine. We've got friends that work within the NHS, and what they're doing. Oh, it's just it's absolutely incredible. And we've got a couple of friends that work in the local hospital near us, and they're just not coming home. They're just continuously fighting this fight, and there can be nothing more annoying, more frustrating, than they're doing all this to try and protect us, to try and help us, putting their own safety on the line, but then other people aren't listening to the advice, and it completely baffles me, mate. I'm just completely lost on it at the moment, because like I say, the NHS, they're being overrun at the moment. They're doing everything that they can, but the people that they're looking after, the people that they're trying to look after, which is us, society, is the public, we're not doing everything that we should be doing. So what happens is that the NHS, as you've quite rightly said, they're going to end up running so low. And the problem is that a lot of people that will end up in the hospital is through no fault of their own. It might be from somebody further down the line that decided that they didn't want to listen, that decided that it was more important for them to go to the pubs with their mates, that it was more important for them to go to the friend's house for a game night or whatever. But somebody's paying the price further down the line. And that's where I just think that the messages need to be stronger that are coming out. I don't think they're strong enough at the moment. We know as a country, we carry on regardless. That's always been the motto. Now's not the time to do that. There has to be a clear message for everybody. We can't say, well, the pubs and the bars are open. We suggest you don't go there. No, you close these things. You make sure that the companies that are having to close your pubs and bars and things like that, if they have to close down, they get looked after. It's as simple as that. At the moment, the most important thing for everybody on this planet, not just this country, is that as many people get through this, as many people survive, and we come out the other end of it, in a good place, because regardless of what happens, of when this clears up, there's going to be a lot of pieces to pick up. So the least we can do as humans is do as we're told, and not put other people that are in a more vulnerable position than ourselves into the hospital, in the NHS, who are, like I say, I can't speak highly enough of them. That no words will do them justice. And then you're seeing photos of people who are working 12, 24 hours, 18-hour shifts. They're then going to the local shop and they can't get any food. It's madness. And we've got to understand now. We've got to become a unit. It's not each to their own. It's not, look after your own. It's look after everybody here. And there is enough, in my opinion, there's enough to go around as in terms of food. Don't hoard food. Don't go out and get this and get that, and go over the top, because that 15th toilet roll that you're buying, or that 10th toilet roll that you're buying, might be a 75-year-old that's trying to get out just for the day or just for an hour to go and get it. Or there may be someone's son or grandson that's trying to get it for them. So let's think about everybody else. Now is when we have to show compassion. We have to be unselfish. And if we're unselfish, if we look after each other, then this will pass a lot quicker than if it's a case of everyone being selfish and looking after their own.
I said to one of the lads on the way in this morning. This is war for, and I'm hoping that doesn't sound too dramatic to people because I genuinely feel this. This is war that's being waged by doctors and nurses. There was times in my military career where you went to war mode. Obviously, I went on operations, but there's other times when we had domestic emergencies where you go to war mode and you work until things was done. I did a 36-hour shift following the 7/7 bombings. Yeah. There's times when things like this happen. This is war for the NHS. It's being waged by doctors and nurses, and the whole country needs to get behind all of those to assist what's going on. I've seen loads of rumours going around that troops are going to be deployed on the streets. From my own experience of how that's going to go down, they're not going to be waving guns at you and telling you to get in your fucking house. That's not how this is going to go down. What's going to happen with these is, I think, is they're going to be used to assist the logistics of making sure medicine and supplies for hospitals and things like that get through. They're probably going to be driving trucks more than fucking smacking you for trying to get a bog roll, I think. So this is the stage that we're at. I feel like that stage is coming within the next week to 10 days. It feels like if you look at the trajectory of the deaths and the infections in the UK, I think we're ahead of where Italy was at this time, or we're on a steeper curve than where Italy was, and Italy got smacked hard. So I think Italy's had more deaths than China now. So, or at least published deaths, should we say. Onto football, Danny, and the picking the pieces back up of this. Why do you think being voided isn't an option for the league? There's an article here in The Athletic. I'll throw a link to this in the description, which talks about 762 million in broadcast revenue is going to have to be paid back if they don't manage to finish the season. Is that something playing a factor into the Premier League clubs' minds, do you think?
It's a tough one. It may well be, but now, and people forget it. And I've got to the point, like I say, I've done a column which is coming out later. I'll get to a point where I'm just sick of tired of hearing just about the Premier League, about, Liverpool. Are they going to win the Premier League? Who's going to get in the top four? Who's going to get relegated? I've got past the point of caring now. I don't care, because if the season is stopped tomorrow, and, I'm a United supporter, but I'm trying to do this from a neutral perspective. If the season finishes tomorrow and United finish 5th, or if Sheffield United are able to play their game in hand and they win that, and United don't finish 5th, you give Liverpool the title. Whoever finishes in the top four, finishes in the top four. I don't care. I'm not bothered, because we're talking about who's going to get the Premier League title. We're talking about who's going to finish in the top four. We're going to talk about who's about to get into the Europa League. No, the question is are every single one of those teams in the Premier League going to be in existence when the new season starts? The answer to that is yes. This is about our local clubs, your Rochdales, your Macclesfields, your Boltons. The list is endless. Go into your non-league, your Altrinchams, your teams like that. My local team, Nantwich, they have just had to make everybody unemployed at the club. That's full-time people, that's part-time people. This is what I care about. I'm not bothered.
Wasn't there a club last week that had to announce administration on the back of what's just happened?
I know that Barnet made everybody somewhere along the lines of made them redundant, and that for me is the biggest thing. Regardless of anything, every single team in the Premier League is going to be absolutely fine. That's not a problem. Yeah.
Ironically, bar Man United potentially because of our huge debt.
Yeah, but if this carries on for the foreseeable future, Manchester United will not go under. We know that. We know that they're a global force and they'll be absolutely fine. But if we're saying, so at the moment they're saying it's no football, is it till the 30th of April, is it at the moment?
At the earliest.
Yeah, at the earliest, right. So if we got to April the 30th and we're saying, right, okay, we can crack on now, which in my opinion, absolutely no chance whatsoever of continuing. You've already had a month and a half of no games by that point. So quite a decent majority of the Championship, your League One, your League Two, your National League, your Conference North, your Conference South, your Evo Stick Leagues, all the way down. They're not going to have played any football. So therefore, they're not going to have had any revenue from supporters coming through the door. So then you get to April the 5th. That's already a month and a half without any football. You then get to April 30th, and you say, "No, I'll tell you what, we're going to have to suspend it for another month." 2.5 months now without clubs having a turnover of supporters coming through the door. Now, at what point do clubs start going under? In my opinion, that is the point when that starts to happen.
If not already, yeah.
If not already. So what is more important here? Is it more important the 20 teams in the Premier League, or is it more important the 92 plus the rest of the teams, the grassroots level and things like that? Because in my opinion, we love the Premier League. We know that it's such a global force. We know the size of the clubs in it. We know how respected it is around the world. But let's not forget, we are well known and we're well respected because of our pyramid, the way that we produce players, the unbelievable success stories of teams getting promoted, players moving all the way from non-league to go and play for England. That's what this country is all about. That's, to me. So what we have to do is say, yes, I know, we know how important the Premier League is, but let's not forget what's below the Premier League. Let's not forget the clubs that are there. Let's not forget that people that are unemployed during the week and then go and do work for that club during the weekend. Let's not forget the human side of things. And that's the bit that concerns me, that at the moment we're talking about, when's the Premier League going to commence? When are Liverpool going to get the title? Are X, Y, and Z going to get into the top 4? I don't, for this 1 year, I don't care. I'm a massive United supporter. Give Liverpool the Premier League. I know you might not want to hear that, but give Liverpool the Premier League.
Yeah, definitely don't.
It's if someone said to me, okay, we stop the season now, we give Liverpool the Premier League title, but it's going to make sure that 30, 40 teams that may well not have survived if we prolonged that are going to be able to continue next.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely agree with that.
And then people will say, well, hang on a second, just because the season finishes, it doesn't mean that the teams below are going to survive. How are they going to survive? By stopping the season now? Well, then what you do, you go one step ahead and say, right, okay, this season, no relegation. No relegation from any league in the football pyramid. Your teams that are in the promotion places now, they get promoted. Unfortunately, if you're in the playoff, hard luck. It is what it is. It's unprecedented times, and that's a problem, obviously. But there's nothing we can do about it. We've got to look at the bigger picture here. Therefore, next season the leagues are expanded, so you're going to have 2 or 3 extra teams. Okay, you play more games. What happens is the 3 teams that were going to be going down from the Premier League, Huddersfield got relegated last season, and they still, as far as I'm aware, got £96 million, right? So we know that within the Premier League, the 3 teams that would have got relegated, they're still getting that amount of money. So what you say, you work it out somewhere and you say, right, okay, this is the money that you're getting, but we are going to enable you to stay in the Premier League next year, when realistically you're in a position where you weren't going to be staying in the Premier League. So some of the income that you get then goes, and we put it further down the line, we trickle it down. And that will make sure there is more than enough to keep teams going for the immediate future, to make sure that the next season can start whenever that may be, and making sure that the pyramid that we respect so much, that we love so much over the years, all the way from non-league all the way to the Premier League and the Premier League champions and the European champions, remains intact. And that's what we have to do. And that's why I feel the sooner that we come to a conclusion, April 30th, if we can't continue to play, that's it. Season's over. Let's go about distributing money then, and how we can go about it. Because if it goes on any longer than that, all of a sudden you're 92 plus the rest. Could be a hell of a lot less than what it is. And I don't want to see that, because like I say, grassroots football and the lower league football is very important, even though at times we don't talk like it is.
Well, no, and obviously we've just started our own little journey to try and get in at the literal bottom of that. Manchester League is where we're looking at, probably Division 2, I imagine. And above us, there's 10 divisions, 12 divisions of teams. And the ones that are broken down regionally, there's 15, 20 teams in all of those divisions. And there's like 7 or 8 regions of them. There's so many teams. Once you start getting below like step 5 and 6, there's an mind-blowing amount in it. How low down did you end up playing at, like Altrincham? And well, Altringham's not that low, is it? But Chester's pretty low, isn't it?
No, Chester in the conference at the time.
Oh, was it?
So yeah, so the lowest I went was, I think, the league below, which was the Conference North. But some of my fondest memories growing up were following my brother. My brother was non-league footballer. You know, he played for the likes of Witton, Stalybridge, Barrow, Altrincham, Chorley, you know, Winsford. He played for a lot of teams, and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. You know, I'd have my game on a Saturday morning for United, the A or the B team, and then we'd be in the back of the car, and then we'd be straight off to wherever my brother was playing. And we travelled all around the Northwest, and you met some fantastic characters. They loved the game because they didn't have to support that club. It was all about loving that individual team. And football clubs are such a big part of communities as well. Such a huge part of communities. They do so much work for communities. If you then take that football club out of the community, so much falls, so much disappears. And that's another reason why we cannot afford to let this happen. You know, we know, obviously we're having a chat about football. We know there's more important things. I'm not saying that, you know, that it's not something that's on the back burner. 100% it is, and 100% it should be. But if we are addressing sport, if we are addressing football, then, like I say, we've got to look after the whole of the football society. You know, how many times when something awful, a tragedy or something happens, how many times do we say the football family has come together for whatever reason it may be? And that's what we talk about, and we're so proud of that. So at this time, the football family needs to come together again when the time is right to play football and when the time is right to talk about it and do what is right for the greater good of the teams that are lower down. And like I say, you go down, even the non-league teams, they're a huge part of the local community. They get people out of bed on a Saturday morning. They give people something to look forward to on a Saturday that otherwise may not have that something to look forward to.
With the major loss of gate receipts, especially as it comes up to a lot of these people now are going to go on like latter stage of cup runs, especially non-league. You're talking about the Vase and the stuff like that. That's, you know, gets like, you know, whichever team from like the Evo Stick 1 ends up going to the Vase, they'll still take 15,000 to Wembley, and you know that's a huge boost for that little team. And some teams will ride 4 or 5 years on the back of one little trip that they lost in the Wembley Vase final. And, you know, I've got mates who've played in those games and stuff. That's all gone. All those have gone for this season at least. What do you think can be practically done to give those gate receipts back to the clubs to ensure that they can start next season, whenever that is, in good shape? It is
very difficult. I think one of the things that you will have at a certain non-league level is that there are semi-pro, but other levels, you know, the National League, there's probably only a couple of clubs which aren't, you know, full-time. So that's where it becomes difficult. Maybe as you go a little bit further down, you can say to players, listen, we know that you have 2 incomes. Can you at least, you know, put it to one side? Some maybe can't, because at the end of the day, they're combining the wages from the work and the wages from what they're getting for playing football. And that's what's seeing them through week to week, month to month. So it's very difficult. That's why I feel that prolonging what's going on now in the football world, obviously in particular in this country, I don't necessarily think that it's going to end up being positive. Because if we get to April the 30th and all of a sudden teams are saying, right, okay, I'm all fine with saying April the 30th. But what we should have now is, if the season can't be completed by April 30th, because they're not given a definitive end date, so that tells me that they're wanting to carry it on. But if we start looking and saying, right, well, April 30th, we can't carry on. May the 30th, we can't carry on. June the 30th, we're able to start again. All of a sudden, you're not able to do anything like that. You're not able to then try and help the smaller clubs, because some of the smaller clubs will have gone out of business. One of the things that also makes great money for your non-league teams in particular is the gate receipts from pre-season friendlies when they play the Premier League teams. You know, that's a massive thing for smaller clubs, not even just non-league, some of the League 2 clubs and League 1 clubs. Now, what's going to happen with that? Because at the end of the day, the way things are going, pre-season could end up being in December. Teams aren't going to get that far. They're not. Teams are not going to get there. And I'm not just talking about, you know, the teams right at the lower echelons. I'm talking about some big clubs as well that are going to be affected. Obviously below the Premier League, and I would imagine below the Championship. But this is what we have to do now. So yes, when you look at it, April 30th, you say, right, this is a date. If we've commenced by then, brilliant. But if we haven't, then we can't carry it on. Now, I think I'm in a minority, because everything that I'm hearing, you hear the stuff from the EFL, you hear the stuff from the Premier League, they want to continue. They want to get to the end of the league. So there's no right way and there's no wrong way. I'm just trying to look at it from a neutral perspective to make sure that smaller clubs that are really going to be struggling to remain in existence are given the best possible opportunity to remain.
Yeah, I think it's tough either way. I don't see an answer that ensures survival for anybody being logical either way. If you finish the season, doesn't mean clubs don't go out of business. If you push on and finish the season, it doesn't go out of business. I personally would say you've got until maybe that April 30th date, because it's in the league's own rules, isn't it, that the season has to be complete by the 30th of June. All domestic calendars have to be complete by the 30th of June, because the 1st of July is the official start of the following season. That's when transfer windows open, that's when contracts renew, that's all that sort of stuff. So to me, it makes sense if you go, right, okay, you get a 2-week extension on the season because of what's happened. So you've got until middle of June, July even, which is traditionally when the World Cups and Euros ends anyway, that 14th of July, something like that. If nothing's complete by then, well, then it's void, and your new season's going to start in August. So you get 4 weeks off, pre-season's going to be domestic, and maybe, like you said, maybe what all of the Premier League clubs do, go, right, what's your 5 nearest clubs? Now you're playing them in a friendly. Bingo. Yeah. And I think that would be a good way to do it.
People out, and it's not just that. You've got a lot of lower league clubs that may have been in the process of renegotiating contracts with players. What are they going to do with that? How are they going to renegotiate? So all of a sudden you might be losing a player that might be worth a certain amount of money to you. We know how many EFL players or former EFL players and even non-league players are playing in the Premier League now.
Yeah.
And the smaller clubs have got a windfall. So all of a sudden you could be losing players that, you may have been offering a new contract and saying, listen, I'll give you a new contract, knowing full well that you are going to be going, but that's going to help our club out. And then you've also got players that will assign pre-contracts at other clubs. So what are you going to do, like you just said, come June the 30th, when you can then realistically go and join your new club? What are you going to do? You're going to be giving everything for the club that you're leaving. So what you're doing is by prolonging the season, you're saying, yes, we want to get all the leagues finished, but you're actually muddying the waters, because then other things are going to be coming into play. Like you say, contracts ending, new contracts starting, pre-contracts that have been signed. What are you going to do with all of those things? Transfer window. When does a transfer window close and open and shut? Because don't get me wrong, it would probably not happen. But if I'm manager of a club and you're manager of a club and you're second from bottom of a league and I'm third from bottom of a league, I'm going to go after your star player. If the season's still on, I'm going to go after your star player and say, listen, come to us. And I tell you what, if you keep us up, I'll give you X amount of money bonus. So what are you going to do then with the transfer window? And this is where, like I say, it all just gets very messy. And that's why I feel that if the season has restarted by April 30th, absolutely brilliant. I would love nothing more than that. But we have to be realistic and say that the likelihood of that is probably very, very slim. So if it hasn't,
I think we're just being peak time for the virus.
100%. So then what we have to do, there has to be another plan in place. We can't keep saying, yes, let's wait another 2 weeks. Let's wait another 2 weeks. Oh, we've just lost another 4 clubs. Let's wait another 2 weeks. Oh, we've just lost another 4 clubs. Because we cannot do this. This then becomes about a human side of things. Because when you lose clubs, when clubs go out of existence, people lose their jobs. And people forget about that. Even when I was at certain clubs, remember when I was at Southampton, when I was at Derby in the Premier League, we got relegated. And people that didn't deserve to lose their job because they hadn't badly performed like us on the pitch, they were losing their jobs. Catering staff, day-to-day match people, they were all losing their jobs with clubs that they'd been at for years, and that was going down from the Premier League to the Championship. So imagine the effect that it's going to have further down.
Well, when I was at Salford playing rugby, I was 18. They was relegated from Super League to the Premiership it was at the time.
Yeah.
And the entire academy got released. I don't know who else lost their jobs, but I can't imagine it was just the academy that went. I think that was because they supposedly never inserted relegation clauses in the first team player contracts, so they had to keep the entire first team at Super League level wages. So to save costs, the entire academy went. One player got kept on.
Wow, it's worrying times. We know that there's an abundance of money at certain levels of the game. Everybody knows that, and you know what? There's no argument with that. Because of what they bring in. But I just think we're at a point now we've got to start looking after lower league clubs, because I think the EFL have put something like 50 million in for their clubs. So what you're looking at is 72, I think it would be, to help them out, and then they're giving them, I think the option of loans as well on interest free, which is going to have to be paid back. But how far will that 50 million go amongst 72 clubs? Not very far.
No, not very far at all. I mean, for Premier League, you're looking at, for most clubs, not even going to cover, 50 million. Is that even covering wage bills in that time?
Exactly. So the EFL are trying to do what they can, but like I say, this is where the greater picture and the bigger picture needs to be looked at. When we do get back to football, and making sure that when we do start football again, that all the local communities have still got clubs to go and support.
Can we end on a lighter note, Danny?
Yeah, of course, 100%. I think that'll be a good thing to do, mate.
Are United winning the fucking treble next year or what?
I tell you what, I'm happy with the way things are going. I've spoke to Ole a few times over the last year and a half, and he's always had his plan, and he's never ever gone away from it. I think when you look at the signings that he's brought in, they've all been players that are hungry, eager to learn, want to come and play for the club. People forget as well how much work he did in the summers in terms of players going from the club, low knees going away from the club. And, you only have to look at a player like Bruno Fernandes, who's come in.
Been all right, hasn't he?
He's been okay, mate. He's been okay. Reminds me of my Stoke days. He's done all right. He's been absolutely magnificent. He's been brilliant. He's been a breath of fresh air. But what happens is that when you bring a player of quality into your club, what he does, he automatically makes everybody around him better as well. So when you talk about a player coming into the club, you're saying, wow, yeah, it'll be a fantastic signing, the things he'll bring to the club and what have you. He actually makes players around him better. He makes players around him stronger. And what you're seeing now, because people trust him, people are making runs off him. He's still got Rashford to come back. That's going to be brilliant. Nobody knows what's going to happen with Paul Pogba in the future. Nobody knows, but the club is now going in the right direction. And whereas previously when we've looked at certain games and gone, this is going to be a real tough game, is because this team are going to sit back. We now have that player that can unlock defences. And, you can feel the joy in supporters now. They're actually looking forward to match days. They're not looking at them with trepidation. They're looking to them with optimism and for the future of the way things are going to go. And I think Solskjaer deserves wonderful credit, because at one of the biggest clubs, the biggest club in the world, in my opinion, when you're at the big clubs, you're only one game away from complete mayhem of things going completely wrong according to everybody else. So he's dealt with it really well. He's not panicked, I don't think, as in terms of transfer windows. He brought the players in that have been needed. And in my opinion, like I say, hopefully everything is okay to continue again. But in the summer transfer window, I think he'll go again, and we'll start to see more pieces falling in place of this jigsaw and getting closer to the top. Because I think United now as a team, 2 or 3 players away from really challenging.
Yeah, I think from what seemed hopeless, even under Ole, that Everton game at the end of last season, You're just thinking, we have got a mountain to climb. The way Barcelona embarrassed us, you're like, we are so far from this. And then you see, actually, you know what? Someone like Fernandes coming in, Harry Maguire's totally settled the back line. In fact, as a centre-half, tell me exactly what has made Harry Maguire such a good signing for us.
Leadership. I think one of the things is as well, because I remember when Mourinho was in charge and he wanted to bring, I think it was Alderweireld in from Tottenham, didn't he?
Yeah.
What Harry Maguire brings you is a capacity, and bear with me with this, he brings a capacity for your team to score more goals. So with Harry Maguire, we know how comfortable he is on the ball, whether he plays in the 2, whether he plays in the 3, dependent on the game and what suits Solskjaer at that time. What teams have done, not with considerable ease, but it's a lot easier to do than it is to have to break it down, is that they've sat back in like a 4-5-1 and made life very difficult. Now, when you've got a player like Harry Maguire that will get beyond the opposition centre forward, because there's only one of them playing up front, he then starts to ask questions of the opposition midfield. One of the opposition midfielders then has to come out to him. So all of a sudden, that nice solid chain between the opposition midfield and defence is broken, because somebody has to come out to try and stop Harry Maguire from just running all the way through. The knock-on effect from that is that a midfielder for United will then be 3. And then the knock-on effect from that is that one of the back 4 players has to free themselves from the defensive unit, because a midfielder is now free for United. That then will leave a Martial, a Rashford, a Dan James, whoever it may be, free higher up the pitch. So that's what he's brought. I think he's brought a calmness. I think he's bringing out the best in Lindelof. And there's just no panic with him. And when he gets on the ball, you know that, okay, the game may be 150 miles an hour, whatever it is, but he'll just calm things down. I think his positioning is excellent, and he's trusted as well by players around him. And because of that, the fullbacks will go forward knowing full well that they've got the protection in front of him. And then, you look at Fred and Matic. Matic has been reinvented, unbelievably so. And then
Is that just having a break, do you reckon?
I think it's having a specific role.
Right.
I think, one of the things that I would say the club's been lacking for a number of years, really, since Sir Alex Ferguson left, because you've had different managers, is a lack of identity. And I think players haven't known what's expected of them. Am I expected to be an attacking midfielder? Am I expected to be a defensive midfielder? Or am I expected to be both? And I think too often over the years, midfielders have been expected to be both. Now, if you can name me a defensive midfielder that's got more than 6 goals this season, then I'll disagree with my own comment. But that's not going to happen. So you're either a defensive midfielder or an attacking midfielder. So what you've got now to a certain extent is Fred. Obviously, McTominay's been injured, but you've got Fred and Matic, and Matic knows that Fred, to a certain extent, can be his legs. So he can go and do the running all around, as in terms of drifting to the left or drifting to the right, which enables Matic then to sit and really protect the 2 centre-backs, and he's still one of the best at doing it. So he's able to conserve energy by the players that are around him. And because players are performing really well now, what happens is the ultimate is that, and obviously as a United supporter, it's difficult to say, but when you look at Liverpool, obviously they had this little bit of a drop off before, what's happened has happened. When you look at Liverpool, every player that plays in that team makes the player in front of them, behind them, to the left of them, or to the right of them, makes them better. And that's what United are looking at doing. So you've got Maguire that will make Matic's job easier because he's always communicating to him. You've got Matic that will make Fred's job easier because Matic is allowing Fred to go and to go and do some charging around and go and be that player that goes and puts his foot in and presses because he knows Matic is behind him. Fred's making Matic better because Matic now isn't having to cover as much ground. Then you've got players like Bruno Fernandes is making players around him better, but then you've got Martial stretching the game, Dan James stretching the game, which in turn makes Fernandes a better player because he's afforded extra time and space on the ball. So it's not about individuals. It's about individuals performing well. And when an individual performs well, he makes the player alongside him, behind him, to the left or to the right of him better as well. And that's what we're starting to see with United.
Igalo. Watching him. I was so excited for him.
I think if you look at Martial, who plays as a centre forward, I think he's good with his back. He's decent with his back to goals in terms of bringing other players in, but he's very good on the shoulder as well, because we know on his day, his strength, his pace and his skill, he's a match for anybody. Whereas with Igalo, he is a player that you say, right, give me the ball, I'll protect it for you. We saw it. The best instance of it was the Manchester derby. The best instance of it when the pressure was getting on a little bit, some of the longer balls were going up to Igalo and it stuck. It just stuck to him. And he was intelligent. He was intelligent in the usage of how he went about it. So all of a sudden you're looking at Igalo and you're thinking to yourself, yes, okay, we've seen him playing cup competitions. The impact that he can have with coming off the bench if your team's under a little bit of pressure, no problem, give me the ball, I will hold on to it, it will stick, no problem me. And that's what he's done. Did it magnificently well, like I've just said, in the Manchester derby, and then has led the line really well as well in the cup competitions that he's played in. And he seems to be a really infectious player as well. He's just living the dream, absolutely living the dream. And he is a good player. I think that when he was brought in, people are like saying, oh, the usual crap. Oh, look, this is where United are now, bringing in the likes of Igalo. They're just being disrespectful and things like that. What do you want to do? Do you want to go and spend £120 million on a centre forward to replace who? Or do you want to bring a player that you can see what he brings to the team, and come the end of the season, you can look at it and say, you know what? Is he worth having as a permanent player? You've got nothing to lose. Will younger players learn off him? Yeah, without doubt. Will he take pressure off the likes of Martial whilst Rashford is injured? 100%. There may be times in games where Martial's done his job, comes off after 65 minutes, and you say, there, go on, Igalo, you take over from me. We've got a different centre forward now. Teams are pressing us high. Don't worry, let's go over the press, because Igalo, he'll hold on to the ball for us, and he'll make sure that he holds onto the ball till we get support, then we get on the front foot. So I think he's been a really successful signing. From
a tactical point of view, the one of the low points of this season was watching how City pressed us in the League Cup. That seems like a big issue for United. It seems like we are not great at playing through that, and our default option of going back to De Gea worries me a little bit. What's your thoughts on that?
Funnily enough, I actually spoke to Solskjaer about this, and I said to him, how do you look at the style of play and the way you want to go about things? At the time, they were only second. He told me they were only second to Manchester City in percentage of short passes. So that which tells you a lot. But he's always said he's not afraid to go over the press. Sometimes I think what we do, we see the beautiful game, and that's the only way that you can play it. Yeah. Whereas I look at United and I think to myself, one of the things that they've missed for a number of years, which they're now getting in abundance, is pace within the team. So you can go over that press. And Manchester City, I think, was obviously a very sobering experience in the League Cup. But then what we have seen in recent times, the game away at Manchester City in the league, the game at home to Manchester City in the league, we saw a group of players that, if plan A isn't working, plan B is available. And that was brilliant to see, because yes, we know that they want to play out the back. We know that they've got players, they've got a capability of playing out from the back. But all of a sudden, the high press from the opposition, it was like, hang on a second, they aren't just going to play out from the back, they're going to go over us. And I go back to when I was playing, and we used to play the great Manchester United teams, used to play the great Chelsea teams, the Manchester City teams, the Arsenal teams. What Manchester United used to do in particular, and Chelsea used to do, first 20 minutes, they would knock the ball over your head if you tried to press. And then you'd have a Van Nistelrooy, a Ronaldo, a Rooney, or a Drogba, whoever it may be that was playing up front. They were like, okay, you want to press us high, we're going to go over your head, and then we'll chase you down. So what happens eventually and inevitably, I'm like, I'm not getting in a foot race with Ronaldo. I'm not getting in a foot race with Drogba. I'm going to drop deep. So all of a sudden, you drop deep. The rest of your team then has to drop deep. Then your Scholes get on the ball. Your Lampards get on the ball. They start dictating the tempo because they've earned the right. And, the greatest teams, like I say, that I played against did that and weren't afraid to do it. And those are some of the greatest teams under Sir Alex Ferguson as well. And then when they'd won that battle, they'd then destroy you with the football that they played. And, so we've seen that United can do it. We've seen that they've got the pace to do it, and they've got the players with the ability to pick a longer pass as well. So, in my opinion, the future's bright. I think Solskjaer's doing an outstanding job. I've said that since day one. He has to be given time, and nothing that I've seen changes my mind. And let's hope when football does start again and when the transfer window reopens that that we can go and get some more signings that have been as productive and as successful as the ones we've made already under Solskjaer.
Oh, we are so due a dud, Danny. We are so due a dud under Ollie at the minute.
You can sign me for 100 quid. I'll go on the pitch for 5 minutes. I'll be that dud. They haven't lost any money then, and then they can get back on the straight and narrow.
Love it. Do you know what? I was going to say, aren't you coming playing for us? But then, do you know what? I'll leave it. You can go and be United's dud. I'll let you do that.
You and me can be United's dud, and then that's the dud out of the way, and then they can carry on with the good business they've been doing. We can do a bog off, buy one, get one free. I'll be the one that's free.
Right. If you've texted him about that press, I know you've texted him about defending set pieces, because what is that all about?
You know what? Funnily enough, you should say that I haven't.
Okay, can I construct a text for you now? Hi, Ollie, comma, what the fuck is our defensive set pieces all about? And then the heart eyes emoji and a kiss.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure that'll go well. No, one of the things I did speak to him about, because I did the Chelsea game, and then I did it was Watford after Chelsea, wasn't it? I think, and I said to him, obviously the set pieces, because they scored from a set piece against Chelsea and looking dangerous from him. You've now got, obviously, Fred still takes a certain amount, but you've got Bruno Fernandes on. And he said, our mid-season break, he said when we were away, I think they were in Marbella, were they maybe? I think they might have gone there for a bit of warm weather training. He said, we practice a set piece, and the exact set piece that they practice is the one that they scored against Chelsea. So
it's the defending that worries me more.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's not something that I've spoken to him about, but if if the
Well, while you're doing fuck all, how about that?
well, they've got time to work on it now. But no, I'm just from it's, and I've said this to so many people before. It's like, as a United supporter now, I'm back to looking forward to watching the games. Obviously, like I say, when all this goes away and as many people remain as fit and healthy, and we deal with this awful thing that's going on in the world at the moment, I do look forward to watching United now. I see an identity. I see younger players. I see hungry players. I see just pressing and everything. And as a supporter, there's nothing better than looking forward to watching your team play. And I just think for a number of years we've not had that because there's so much chopping and changing, players not knowing what's expected of them, different players from different managers. And I just feel that the club now is on the right path, and long may it continue.
Yeah, and the last goal that we saw at Old Trafford was that from McTominay, which is, if he was never going back in the place, what a way to finish it. Right, Danny, thank you very much. Go give him a follow on Twitter and check out all the work that he's doing. He was on Sky every pissing day up until last week. So check out his work on there. It is brought to you guys by The Athletic. Like I said, check the link out in the description and go and see what they're doing, because they was weird anyway, right? In terms of the scope in what they did in terms of articles, you want to see how weird they are getting. Now there's no football to talk about. But thank you guys for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.